Legion Tower Defense 2 is a game for the personal computer entertainment system currently retailing for $20 American. The learning curve for this game after the tutorial is less like a curve and more akin to hiking Everest equipped with only your boxers. While this is possible by use of the Windhawk method, I think it's more reasonable to look into what tools are available to learn as much as possible with the least amount of time wasted. First off, the single most important thing you need to do when learning any new thing is keep the spark of your interest alive. This is the most important part. Do whatever it takes to keep some amount of fun in the game. Focusing too hard on being better too quickly or taking in too much too quickly is a guaranteed path to burnout. If you burn out, you may never have it in you to come back and try again later. Next, you'll need to play enough to be familiar with the terms, units, and user interface. This requires you to try out all the unit types, so try not to get too focused on your favorites. And always keep in mind, copy the things that work. When you lose, take a moment to write down what happened, and if you see someone using the same unit you used and lost with, try to recreate it. You might be surprised how well it can work. Playing just for the sake of looking at the user interface, learning what the buttons do, and what the units in the game look like is a good start. There are so many moving parts to Legion to memorize that you'll need to take it all in one step at a time. Consider starting with one of the designated factions available and playing in single player, in an AI match, or in online 4v4. Having the stability of always having the same units available to you during your games will let you retain more of what you learn and capitalize on it more as you get the hang of what the units are good at and where they are weak. There's a lot going on in the user interface for this game, so it's helpful to get familiar with all the information available to you. At the bottom of the screen are the units you have available for your game. You have 6 at a time. You also have a dice icon to the right of your units, which is very important because you can re-roll your units once per game to swap some out for new ones. This works even if you choose a faction as your unit type. It will give you random units to choose from which might complement your faction very well. Each unit has an attack type and a defense type, which will be very important to consider for each wave, but the game also helps you out a lot with making those choices. In this case, the game is letting me know Grawl does extra damage and receives less damage in this wave, so it's recommended to use this unit out of the 6 I currently have. You'll want to give yourself some additional info for the upcoming waves. To get to this info, just click on the portrait icon under the wave number and drag the 2 new windows to wherever you feel comfortable. For each wave in this window, it shows the attack and defense type, the recommended attack and defense type you should use against it, and the current recommended value. We'll talk about recommended value another time. That's related to economics and is out of the scope of this class, honestly. An important note about the wave info box: anytime the wave has an arcane defense type, that wave is weak to impact and pierce damage. The box will recommend one of them to you, but both are equally good for those waves. This window shows the details of attack and defense types, and I recommend you keep this open and available at all times unless you've memorized it. Here is the example I mentioned where arcane defense is weak to both impact and pierce. It's easy to forget if you don't have this info nearby to remind you. Here's the window that displays the current players and their current power score, which to oversummarize is a measure of how powerful their mix of units are with their current economy. Don't worry about that so much for now, other than to gauge where you're at compared to the enemy team. This is your list of mercenaries, and while learning, don't worry too much about what each one does. You can check the auto checkbox button on the top right to auto send, which is where the game will automatically send mercenaries to your assigned opponent when you have enough mythium available. Many people will tell you that this is a bad way to play because you're sending your opponent free gold when they kill the mercenaries. While you are learning, this isn't as big of an issue as it sounds, and you have a lot more going on, so just let it rock and you'll know when you've hit the point where you can control the mercenary sends on your own. This button to the left of your units is your king up options, where you can choose to increase the outright damage of your king, increase the regen, or the area of effect damage. You can only do this before a wave starts in the building phase, so keep that in mind. At any point during the match, you can hold the tab key, and this will bring up the display of the current builds for you and your teammates. To see the enemy builds, press and hold spacebar while still holding tab. This is extremely helpful because you can see what the enemy team has even during the build phase, where they are usually hidden on the map. You can hover your mouse over any of the units on any board while in this view to see the stats for a unit. Eventually, you'll want to move on to trying out Mastermind instead of picking a faction for your units. Mastermind is a random mix of all the units in the game each time you play. Don't worry about learning the game initially with Mastermind unless you specifically want to jump into ranked matches as soon as possible, because that's the only option in 2v2 ranked. Just be aware it does exist and you will see others using it, and it's considered the standard method of play. If you're using a specific faction and have any specific questions, include the faction you're playing in your questions so that players don't give you advice for Mastermind instead. So far, this has just been the basics of the UI and a general discussion of choosing a faction. Until all of this is second nature and you are comfy with the units in the game with a general sense of how they work, I recommend you just keep playing and accumulate general experience of the game. If there are any aspects of the UI that you'd like to know more about, please let me know in the comments below so I can expand on it in a different video. For anyone who already knew all of this info and is looking for what to do next, here are some suggestions I have that you can consider. If you haven't yet, try checking out the leaderboards section. There is a rotating list of top player matches there that shows you what the player opened with on Wave 1. This info can be especially helpful if you want to focus on learning a specific unit opener using the lock-in option for Mastermind, or if you're using a specific faction opener. Open the match results, start from Wave 1, and see how they built around their opener for the first 5 or so waves. It can be really tricky to pick out why a player did what they did on a given round, so if you're unsure, load that wave into Sandbox and see how the wave interacted with their units, and you might see some new placements and strategies that can help you step up your game. More info on using Sandbox will come in a separate video. Another thing to consider if stuck is to try to play either ranked or 4v4 with another player that is a little bit better than you. It's the hardest option because you have to put yourself out there socially, and likely you'll have to join the Discord server to coordinate. But sharing ideas rapidly with someone near your skill level can be one of the fastest ways to figure new strategies out. A link for the official Discord server is in the description. Please let me know if it expires. With all of this being said, I hope you're enjoying your time in the game and in general at the moment. When learning something completely new, I often feel like I'm awful and get overwhelmed at the amount of things that there are to learn about and work on mastering. So if you feel the same, I hope this video has eased those feelings somewhat. There's an insane amount of information to memorize in Legion and an absurdly low amount of content and resources to learn it with compared to other games. So go easy on yourself and give yourself some room to breathe and take your time. If I missed anything that is currently bothering you about learning Legion at the moment, let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to get an answer for you. Making videos is time consuming and hard, so if you'd like to support the channel, please consider donating a helpful YouTube video so that I can consume content instead of making it myself.